If you still picture gambling as smoky casinos and slot machines, then you're already a decade behind because today it lives on your phone, in your pocket, and it's more dangerous than ever. And this is coming from someone who struggled with sports betting for a really long time. It wasn't too long ago that in order to gamble, you had to go to Vegas or you had to go to a physical casino where you were gone for several hours. And Vegas is like dying these days. Fast forward to today, it's a completely different landscape. It lives on your phones, and with the rise of technology and online casinos, crypto casinos, loot boxes, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, Caesars, the list is endless, frankly. Within seconds, you have access to thousands of games and thousands of different bets on anything from your typical NFL, NBA, all the way to, I don't know, Romanian soccer. I mean, how absurd is it that you can bet on every single pitch in a baseball game, whether it'll be a ball or a strike? That is the equivalent of a modern day slot machine in your pocket 24/7. And you also have endless access through streaming websites. I mean, I remember typically I wouldn't bet on a game unless I could figure out how to watch it because there was just something, I don't know, exciting, we'll say, about being able to watch the game live that you bet on. But now you have all the illegal streaming sites where you can get anything on there. You have ESPN Plus where you can get live streaming to women's college basketball if that's your thing, or whatever random mid-major college basketball team is playing that night. So it almost incentivizes you, or at least it did for me, to gamble more. And also within the apps, you can stream those random tennis matches that are in Malaysia or wherever. It doesn't matter. You can watch it live. And also, they have that little animation thing in there too, which I always thought was funny because if I couldn't find a stream for that game, I would be following that thing for 90 minutes on a soccer game. Like, how pathetic is that? And even if sports betting isn't your thing, you can sit and play blackjack with a live dealer. You can spin a real roulette wheel. So I remember having a conversation with my sponsor. He's like 65 years old, super awesome guy. And when I first started getting into the 12-step program and Gamblers Anonymous and whatnot, we had a lot of those back in my day conversations. You know, the like, I walked to school uphill in 12 feet of snow both ways, and we never had school canceled, blah, blah, blah. So he calls me one day and he's like, hey, I was working the Gamblers Anonymous hotline, and this kid was telling me that he has no money left, but he has a big bet out there, and they're offering a cash out option. And I have no clue what he's talking about, and he's asking me if he should cash out or not, and he needed me to explain it to him. So there's a couple issues with that. Number one, I love that he's working the hotline. Like, we need people to do that. But secondly, if he has no idea what cashing out a bet is, can he really offer that additional help? That's problem number one. Problem number two is how different gambling is today. Because in our conversations, we talked about how I do everything on my phone and nobody has any idea that I'm gambling. And he talks about going to the racetrack where, and he was a sports bettor too, by the way. So you had to go through a bookie, and they didn't have the websites. Like, you had to physically meet him or you had to call him and tell him which bets you wanted. Or at the horse track, he would say that he would sit on the opposite side of the grandstand and he would do hand signals on if he wanted the horse to win or place or to show, I think. I don't know. I never did horse racing. But how crazy is that? To go from hand signals to a bookie at the racetrack to now being able to bet on, again, any type of soccer game or tennis match or Russian ping pong, or the micro betting where you're basically pulling a slot machine in terms of if the next pitch is a ball or a strike. And the other thing you have to think about is it's not just about gambling anymore. When you look at social media, it's created this whole idea of FOMO. I mean, you have people on Twitch streaming their gambling. You have guys on Instagram and Twitter posting their betting slips, or in my opinion, fake slips, but they're trying to get you to buy their sports betting package where they're guaranteeing you hit X amount percentage. And so it creates this idea of missing out. And then you have big time streamers that are gambling hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it almost makes it cool. Actually, it does make it cool that these guys are betting these huge amounts. This level of accessibility and normalization of gambling has never been seen before. And it's becoming a huge problem, especially in the US. I know in the UK and Australia it's already pretty big of a problem, but it's been legalized there for a longer period. Gone are the days of it being highly private and underground and like backroom poker games, even though apparently with Chauncey Billups, those still exist in the mafia and all of that. But now gambling is mainstream, it's highly publicized, and it's also very much ingrained in celebrity culture. Like the biggest trend right now is having celebrities or athletes promote gambling. I mean, again, the mafia was using rigged games where you got to gamble with sports stars, and now BetMGM has Jamie Foxx on a commercial, or DraftKings has Gronk and all those guys promoting gambling. They do it on their podcasts too. It's not just commercials. And I think the biggest one out there is Drake. Again, he promotes gambling through stake on his streams where he's betting millions of dollars at a time or $50,000 on a hand of blackjack. But what people don't realize is, again, and I've talked about this in other videos, Drake has allegedly, like $100 million contract with stake. So is he even really betting his own money? Either way, think about it. If you are 22, you're fresh out of college, you love listening to Drake, and you're starting to bet on sports, and you're watching his stream where he wins $50,000 on a hand that he had to double down, and it was kind of a crazy deal, and him and all his guys are like going crazy online, it creates excitement. I get it. It's like a total trap. But you have to think about how this creates a dangerous association for viewers because, again, you got these young guys who think that gambling is a way to get rich quick because Drake just made $50,000 on a bet. Or they've normalized it so much where it actually just feels like it's entertainment when you're gambling high stakes. And that is a huge issue. So social media is giving these streamers direct access to their audience. They're not just promoting gambling anymore in a commercial, they are actively promoting it while gambling. So this live streaming makes gambling feel way more accessible and engaging than ever before, and it gives the viewers this idea that high stakes gambling is incredibly fun and you can flip 50 into 100 grand like that. But you have to be mindful of the danger of glamorizing it. I mean, I think back to those smoking commercials like, I don't know, whatever the guy's name is, but he made it cool as hell to smoke. It almost makes gambling addiction seem like a normal part of life. Because as a viewer, you get to watch these celebrities gamble high risk or huge stakes, but you don't get to see the consequences because for those guys, there are none. Because they're getting paid to gamble and they're getting paid to have you use their code to sign up and make deposits. Like, think about how crazy this is. Let's say that you're somebody who is trying to stop gambling and you've locked yourself out of all the apps and you are self-excluded from physical casinos in your state and you're just casually scrolling on Instagram and you're getting hit with casino ads left and right and they're online casinos, so the opt-out doesn't necessarily apply. What do you think's going to happen? And I know there's a lot of people out there trying to make changes about all of it, and you have a ton of individual state problem gambling councils, and they are doing great work, don't get me wrong. But remember, there is no federal funding for gambling addiction. It's all state sponsored. And guess who's paying those councils? The casinos. The state is mandating that they take a portion of their profits and fund these gambling councils, which isn't inherently bad, but also you're kind of in bed with the enemy in some sense because the casinos get to control some of that messaging. So really, it's pretty much impossible to escape gambling advertisements if you're trying to quit. You go to the grocery store, you're going to see billboards on the highway. You watch a game, you're going to see the announcers talking about the spread and the FanDuel live spreads and FanDuel patches on, I think it's the Sixers jerseys, I forget. What are you supposed to do? You post a picture of you and your friends and you're seeing the comments and then you go into your feed and you're getting hit with advertisements. And if you think about what gambling is just in general, like, yeah, it crosses the form of entertainment to problem, but at the same time, they have given you instant gratification. Your bets are settling within seconds. So when people win, they get a surge of dopamine. And when they lose, they don't get that same feeling. They probably feel shameful or feel bad about it, but that causes you to chase that same dopamine. So you're chasing losses, but you're also just chasing dopamine. And these apps are designed and gamified to get you to keep coming back. I mean, how many times have you gotten an email for a bonus bet because you hadn't gambled in a couple of days? It creates this constant feedback loop because ultimately they're trying to get you to gamble and they've cracked the code on it. Like, it's basically a psyop if you think about it. The apps are built to keep you engaged. They have push notifications on when somebody scores, the score at the end of a quarter, the halftime score, if it's a close game at the end to get you to tune in. They have notifications for when the game starts, if the spread has changed. And when you win, there's confetti and sounds and lights. Like, it's like you're sitting at an actual casino. And I think one of the most important factors to understanding modern gambling is ultimately that, you have to think about how a gambler perceives their bets. It's not just a simple wager, it's like this full emotional process. And they'll usually justify their behavior in terms of how they'll bet and how they'll continue to bet. It's things like, I'm just trying to break even, I'll stop when I get back to zero. It's just a unit. And by the way, if you're not familiar with that, a unit is just a way to track your profits and losses when it comes to gambling, which also is an issue because saying it's a unit just desensitizes you. It's similar to using poker chips at a blackjack table. What sounds worse to you, a 5-unit bet or a $500 bet? It might sound harmless, but that's just all a part of the self-delusion when it comes to gambling. And again, using a unit system also hides gambling when it comes to betting with you and your friends. You guys both might have 1 unit on the game, but 1 unit to you could be $25 and a unit to me could be $2,500. The other big thing when it comes to self-delusion is gamblers will talk about gambling as an investment. I'm just trying to get some return. Well, in reality, if you put it in the stock market, you get 7 to 8% on average, we'll say, in a standard S&P fund. That's going to take years to double your money. Why would I do that when I can bet on the over of the Sunday night football game and double it instantly? So again, you find yourself falling into this idea of chasing losses, and ultimately it desensitizes you from how you feel money. And you have to understand that it is 24/7. I don't even think the casino tables are open 24/7. I think they shut down for like an hour or two. So now you can do this while you're driving, which I've done. I used to stream games while I was driving. You can do it in the shower, another thing that I've done. Obviously, I go to the bathroom a million times so I could hide my gambling. At work, in meetings, when you can't sleep at 3 a.m., you can find, again, Russian ping pong. It is constant. And when it's constant, it fuels the impulsivity of those decisions. Like, I remember when I would use the bookie websites that were like really poorly designed, if there were no games that night or it was at midnight, you couldn't bet on anything until the next day. But in the modern sports betting world, you can, again, bet on anything 24/7. I remember betting on Chinese basketball when I'd wake up. I would bet on European soccer, which isn't all that crazy. And then I would find myself betting on tennis, which was a sport I knew nothing about. And not only just that, I'm talking like minor league tennis, ATP Tour, if you're familiar with it. It's like guys who are not that good. And you could bet on ITF tennis, which was like, I could pick up a racket tomorrow and probably beat some of those people. Brazilian basketball I've done, Iceland basketball, Malaysian basketball or Indonesia, one of the two. Japanese B-League basketball, I remember that one was like a 3 a.m. bet. In the past, you had to go to a physical casino to do any type of gambling or an off-track betting place. It's a lot harder to sneak off to the casino for 3 hours when you have a 2-year-old at home that you have to put to bed or you have regular real-life obligations. It's a lot harder to do that. Now I can do that all at once. Sure, I'll give my kid a bath. I can gamble during it. Why wouldn't I? Oh, it's really nice out. Let's go grab coffee. Sure, follow my bets. And the other tough part too, if you think about it, a lot of family gatherings are tied to sports. I mean, think about Thanksgiving Day. It was a tradition in my family where we watched all the games. But now You have Al Michaels talking about the spreads. And he's been subtly doing that for years, which is kind of interesting, where unless you were a gambler, you wouldn't know what he was talking about. The other thing somebody needs to understand when it comes to gambling is the level of secrecy that people will go to hide those losses or just their gambling overall. The one thing that is different, or one of the biggest things that's different about gambling addiction compared to drugs or alcohol, 9 times out of 10, you can tell somebody's drunk or high. You will never know a gambler has just lost their life savings, ever, unless they're one of those people who lashes out. But they have spent years lying about how much they bet on a game. So if they do lash out, then it's like, oh, I was just really mad about that one. They will sit at dinner with you, have their entire rent check on a game, not know if they can pay the bill or not, or if their credit card's going to get declined, watch a kicker miss a field goal for the cover, and act like nothing happened. And that is scary. If you really want to understand what gambling looks like in 2025 and how it's changing people's minds, lives, families, and finances, stay tuned and subscribe. This is the reality that most people never see.